Good morning, aloha, welcome to the Hawaii State Capitol. Today's date, Thursday, February 9th. We're in conference room 329 on the 9 a.m. agenda. Before I get started, can I have our committee members identify themselves? Starting with Representative Garcia.
Good morning, Diamond Garcia, District 42, Kapolei, Ho'opili, and Eva.
Good team.
Good morning, I'm Teresa Amato, representing South Maui.
Good morning, John Mizuno, representing Kalihi Valley.
Bert Kobayashi, representing Kapahulu to Kahala.
Thank you very much. First up on the agenda, members, is House Bill 618. First up, Judiciary, State of Hawaii. Judiciary provided testimony and support. Next up, Domestic Violence Action Center. Testimony in support, Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Aloha.
Chair, Vice Chair Angelina Mercado, the Executive Director of Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We stand on our written testimony and are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Midwives Alliance of Hawaii. Testimony in support, Save Medicaid Hawaii. Testimony in support. I've got 6 individuals.
Attention in the building, false alarm, false alarm.
Thank you, that's important. So, false alarm. I got 6 individuals supporting testimony, all in support. So at this time, if there's anyone in the audience or on Zoom that wants to testify on House Bill 618, please come on up and identify yourself. Seeing none, members, are there any questions? No questions? Okay, thank you, members. We're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. That would be House Bill 841. First up, Department of Human Services, DHS.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tim Hitchens, Assistant Administrator for the Social Services Division, standing in for Department of Human Services. And we stand on our written support, our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you very much. I'm here for questions as well if you have them.
Thank you very much, Tim. Next up, we've got Judiciary. Judiciary, State of Hawaii. Okay, next up, we've got Domestic Violence Action Center. Nancy just walked in. We're on House Bill 841, Nancy. 841? In support. Thank you. Great to see you.
Nice to see you.
Okay, next up, we've got Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Hi.
Aloha, Chair.
Aloha.
Vice Chair, members of the committee, we stand on our written testimony, available for any questions.
In support, sure. Thank you very much. Lokahi Treatment Centers provided testimony in support. I've got 4 individuals, all in support, testimony in support. Did anyone here in the audience or on Zoom want to provide oral testimony on this measure? I've got all in support. Okay, if not, members, are there any questions? Again, we're on House Bill 841. Any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. House Bill 415. 415, first up, State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Hey, Doctor.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair,
morning.
committee members. I'm Danger Bartos for the State Council, and we stand our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Danger, thank you. Next up, we've got the Hawaii Disability Rights Center. Don't see Lou here. Provided testimony in support, AARP Hawaii.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Audrey Suga Nakagawa, Advocacy Director for AARP. AARP stands in support of this measure. Just for clarification, or just to make sure you understand what a mobility management program is, it's an integrated strategic approach that coordinates a full range of mobility services that complements the traditional fixed route bus system like the bus routes. And so it coordinates services along with other social service agencies that can provide additional transportation for people with special needs or who have some mobility challenges. So having this program, there was a report that was made back in 2015 that looked at this issue county-wise. Every county has their own plan, But having a state role in this to help leveraging the federal funds to help purchasing these vehicles, data support, would be something that would be well needed. So I ask for your support of this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next, Kylie Swan.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chair Mizuno and Vice Chair Amora. My name is Kylie Swan. I apologize for a late testimony. I'm in strong support of House Bill 415. I walk to the bus stop to catch the bus every day. Mobility safety is very important to me. I would like to be a member of a task force to advocate people with disability. Thank you. Please don't be shy. I have any question you may have.
Thank you, Kylie. Next up, Donald Sakamoto.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and other members of the committee. Donald Sakamoto for the record. I'm with the National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii, also the president of Citizens for a Fair American with Disability Act Ride. In 2013, 2014, I participated with the Executive Office of Agent with Audrey, who just spoke a little while ago. She was a coordinator on the Mobility Management Report. We sat down and we discussed, well, we can have strategies for this. It's very important that we have mobility coordinators in each key islands, Kauai, Maui, and the Big Island especially. Transportation is a very difficult thing. I advocate for public transportation here for the disabled and elderly, and we have a fantastic service here on Oahu, but I strongly agree that this bill needs to go forward so we can have a dialogue with the counties, with the state. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Donald. Members, that's the last testifier I have on this list. If there is any testifiers in the audience or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 415, please come forward. If not, members, are there any questions? 415. No questions? Okay, thank you very much, members. Moving on to the next bill on the agenda. That would be House Bill 225, House Draft 1. First up, Department of Human Services.
Aloha and good morning again. Tim Hitchens, Assistant Administrator, Social Services Division under the Department of Human Services. And we stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I believe that's all I have on the testifiers list. If there's anyone else here in the audience or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 225, House Draft 1, please come forward. If not, members, are there any questions on 225? Seeing no questions, thank you, members. We're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda, which would be House Bill 448. First up, Department of Education.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno,
Good
Vice
morning.
Chair Amato, and members of the committee. I'm Annie Kalam, Assistant Superintendent for the Office of Student Support Services, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. We stand on a written testimony which provides comments, and we're here if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair,
Aloha.
Committee members. Good morning. I'm Angie Mercado, Executive Director of Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and we support the intent of this measure and make recommendations to this measure. Specifically, we recognize that teen dating violence is a serious issue in our community and across the nation, and we also recognize that it would be an additional potential liability for our members' programs who provide advocacy services to these minors. So therefore, we recommend that we actually just reduce the age by which a minor can petition for an order of protection to 16 years old. This is not unprecedented. There are 9 other states that do this across the country, and available for any questions you may have. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Next up, Okahi Treatment Centers. Okahi Treatment Centers provided testimony in support. Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform. Marilyn Yamamoto provided testimony in opposition. And I've got 3 individuals, 2 of which provided testimony in support, 1 with comments. If any of the individuals or anyone in the audience here or on Zoom would like to testify on 448, please come forward. Okay, if not, members, any questions on 448? Yes, Representative Kobayashi.
I guess for DOE, How would you determine whether a parent or legal guardian is unwilling or unable to petition on the minor's behalf?
That would be difficult for us to do. And currently what we have now is a very clearly articulated system that we respond to in the event that we suspect harm or potential harm for a student. And that's our reporting to the Department of Health and to our county police officers.
I mean, let's see. So getting back, what would you do to determine that a parent or legal guardian is unwilling or unable to petition? You would have to interview the guardian.
Absolutely. We would have to go beyond what we typically do in terms of bringing in the parent and asking the parent if they were willing or not.
See, my problem is that a school counselor probably would not be able to determine whether a parent or guardian is so-called unable to petition. That is, you would have to make a determination that there's sort of a lack of competence involved. So that lack of competence would then establish unable to petition.
Absolutely. Whether they were unable to, incompetent, or unwilling to would be difficult for us to determine.
Can somebody work on language? Thank you.
Yes.
Please stay up. Thank you, Representative Kobayashi. Members, any further questions? Further questions? So for DOE, and could I get the representative for the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence to please also come up? Thank you again for your friendly amendments and your comments in support. Exactly what Representative Kobayashi had mentioned. Could the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence work with the DOE together with the judiciary to craft sound language for this bill? I think the intent is good. The next committee is judiciary. Should they take this up, I want to make sure we have really good language for them. I think we got a bit of a ways to go, but I think we can do it. And Rep. Kobayashi highlighted it quite well by saying, can we work together on the language? I would think, you helping domestic violence victims, and also for you working, representing DOE, connect with one of our representatives from the judiciary, and let's try to craft language. Should this bill be heard in judiciary, I just want to make sure we have a better draft bill. So we appreciate your, yes, go ahead, please.
Chair, if I may, just so that I'm clear and I'm working appropriately with the Department of Education, is the concern and the language that you're looking to have amended in reference to whether parents are able to give consent or their unwillingness to consent? Is that the biggest area of concern?
No, I know that 9 other states have adopted similar language in their statutes. I just want to make sure judiciary is comfortable in what we're doing. Because sometimes as these bills continue to move downstream, we get blindsided by one of our brother agencies saying, this cannot be done, it's too complicated, you should have met with us earlier, we could have worked on the language. So I'm thinking, I foresee, should this continue on its way, we really need the insight of judiciary to tell us this is the right thing to do, or maybe we should craft the language this way. I just want to make sure as the bill moves along, it's been given its due respect and review.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to make good legislation
No, I'm
pass.
perfect. I'm clear now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, members, if there is no further questions on House Bill 448, we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. That's House Bill 449. First up, we've got Attorney General's Office.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno and members of the committee. I'm Deputy Attorney General Erin Torres. The department recommends amending this bill to establish a task force to design and implement a process for obtaining court orders for protective custody, as well as to propose coordinating legislation for future consideration. We make this recommendation because the 3rd Judicial Circuit, which is Hawaii County, is the only place in the state where there is currently a process in place to obtain a court order for protective custody. Unfortunately, this 3rd Circuit process can take hours or even days because it involves paperwork on many levels and the judiciary is not available on nights, weekends, or holidays. Because of the length of the 3rd Circuit process and the absence of an existing process elsewhere, there are many unanswered questions about what the process should be and what resources are necessary for implementation. The agencies that should be included in the task force to address these questions include our department, the judiciary, the DHS, and each of the county police departments. The consequence of an inefficient process may be a negative effect on the safety of abused children. If this committee is not inclined to establish a task force as we recommend, we ask that the specific amendments discussed in our written testimony be made prior to passing this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Next up, we've got the Department of Human Services.
Good morning, Tim Hitchens, Social Services Division Assistant Administrator for the Department of Human Services today. And we stand on our written testimony and agree with the Attorney General on the task force. I'm available for questions should you have any.
Thank you very much, Tim. Judiciary, State of Hawaii.
Hi, good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and honorable members of the Human Services Committee. I'm Andrew Park, and I'm a judge in the Family Court out at Kapolei. I happen to preside over child welfare cases, so I'll try my best to answer any questions if you all have any. Other than that, I will stand on our written testimony.
Did want to share with you, Judge Park, thank you so much for helping us a few hearings ago on House Bill 317. Your amendments were great, and we just heard that bill in Judiciary Committee yesterday, and it was passed out. And we did thank the Judiciary Representative for your outstanding service and representation in explaining what the changes would be needed for that bill to move on. So thank you, Judge Park. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Mizuno, and I'm sad that I wasn't able to make it, but I'm glad that Judge Hall was.
Thank you.
I'll
very
stand by.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, members, next up, we've got Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform. Next up, Hawaii Coalition for Child Protect, well, the same one, the same organization. I've got two different people there. And I've got an individual, Dar Carlin. So all three providing testimony in support. Is there anyone else in the audience or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 449? Seeing none, members, questions? No questions? Okay, thank you very much. Members, we're going to move on to next bill on the agenda, 446. First up, Judiciary. Provided comments. Next up, Early Childhood Action Strategy. Provided support, testimony and support. Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Angie Mercado. On behalf of the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, we stand on our written testimony, and we just want to reiterate we support this measure, and our preferred language is actually in HB 581. The biggest difference in this one is that it has 3 hours of required training. HB 581 has 5 hours, and in this version of the bill, there is a requirement that the judiciary would certify or approve the training. In prior testimony on the version of this bill last year, they indicated that they don't have the mechanism or they don't have that process internally at the judiciary, so that's why the language was a little more broadly written in 581.
Got it.
Aloha.
Thank you very much, Angie. Okay, next up, Midwives Alliance of Hawaii. Provided testimony in support. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. Provided testimony in support. And I've got special education teacher Troy Fujii, I believe on Zoom. Present? Present? Yes. Mr. Fujii? Yes.
Yes, good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and committee members. My testimony is actually for House Bill 581, since it's similar to this bill. So should I proceed with the testimony, or?
Yes, Mr. Fujii, and if you would like, when we go to 581, I may as well share with you and the audience and the members here. Members, House Bill 446 is closely in line, very similar to the next bill on the agenda, 581. Chair's inclined to recommend that we probably defer 446 and we use House Bill 581 as a vehicle. So, but Mr. Fujii, go ahead and share your testimony, and then when 581 comes up, you can stand on your testimony still in support for 581.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Troy Fujii, and I'm testifying in support of House Bill 581 and to have an amendment added to the purpose of this bill. So I would like to say that even though the purpose of the child custody evaluator is to provide an unbiased, objective opinion on the facts, this does not always happen. More often than not, one parent will be treated unfairly in the evaluator's recommendation. These evaluators must be held to a high standard when making decisions that will affect the well-being of children and their relationship with their parents. That is why I am proposing that these evaluators start with the presumption of a shared equal parenting recommendation to start as being in the best interest of children. There's compelling scientific research that backs that up. The only way that would change is if there is clear and convincing evidence provided by one parent that there was violence or abuse in the relationship. Their conclusions must be supported by facts and have a clear line of thought and evidence to back up their recommendation for less than 50-50 shared parenting. Common sense says that if parents are willing, able, and fit to care for their children, they should be able to, because both parents matter. Children are harmed by giving one parent a secondary role, so 50-50 shared parenting should be the law. By passing this bill with these amendments, it will be a step toward reforming our state child custody laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
For allowing
Fujii.
me to testify.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fujii. Okay, so for the members in the audience, I've got 6 additional individuals for providing support, 1 in opposition, 1 comment. Again, this is on House Bill 446, but again, Chair is inclined to defer 446 and move House Bill 581. House Bill 581 will be the vehicle. So if there's anyone already on a testifiers list that still wants to testify on 446, either here or on Zoom, please come on up. If not, members' questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the vehicle. It's going to be 581. First up, I've got Judiciary. Provided testimony in support. Domestic Violence Action Center. Nancy? I just call it Domestic Violence Action Center?
Let's stand on our written testimony with emphasis on understanding it's essential that child custody evaluators understand what they're looking at.
Oh, sure, thanks. And it is in support, right, Nancy?
Yeah, it's in support
Thank you.
of the bill 581. It's understandable that people try to put on their best face when they are going through any kind of circumstances involving professionals like custody evaluators. So it's really important that custody evaluators have a clear understanding of what they're looking at and what ways to understand what has transpired between the members of the family. So the training, 5 hours of training is sufficient. Our staff, for example, participates in 40 hours of training before they work with a family. It's a very complex and challenging set of circumstances, and so child custody evaluators are relied on by the court, and we need them to understand what's in the best interest of the kids. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Next up, Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
We stand on our written testimony.
Thanks, Angie. Thank you. Next up, Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. Testimony in support, Midwives Alliance of Hawaii. Testimony in support, Lokahi Treatment Centers. Testimony in support, Save Medicaid Hawaii. Testimony in support, Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform. Testimony in opposition, and I've got about 12 individuals, all of them providing testimony in support, but three opposed. So if there are any individuals here or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 581, please do so. And I believe on Zoom, Mr. Fujii is using his testimony in support of, he was supporting 446. Now that he knows the vehicle is 581, testimony in support for 581, I believe. Mr. Fujii, is that correct?
Yes, I stand on my testimony for support of House Bill 581.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else here wishing to testify, present or on Zoom, on House Bill 581? Seeing none, members, questions? Oh, yes, Representative Kobayashi?
I guess for Nancy Creedman, talked.
That's 446, though.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we're on 581.
Yeah. Didn't she just?
Yeah. But she testified on 581, not.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Nancy Creedman, Rep. Kobayashi has a question for you.
You talked about 40-hour training.
Well, that's what our staff at the Domestic Violence Action Center participate in when they begin employment with us, just because when you're working with a family, there's so much to understand about what they've experienced and the trauma and the reasons why they did or didn't make certain choices. So the Domestic Violence Action Center provides 40 hours of training for staff. So I was just comparing our requirement, our standard, with the 5 hours, suggesting that 5 hours is kind of sufficient and certainly better than what we've got now.
So is there established national recognized competencies?
Would you say?
That's
Can you help me?
That's what is in the current law.
Go ahead. Aloha. So actually, across the nation, there is not a nationalized standards for training. So I wanted to make a distinction. So I want to clear first with Nancy. Nancy, I think when you're talking about 40 hours, you're talking about your advocates get training, not just in working with children. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So,
Our advocates and attorneys and everybody.
right. So actually, our current statute right now in the state of Hawaii is that domestic violence advocates would receive 25 hours of training in order to be able to work with survivors of domestic violence and their children, and that is in our privilege statute, so that they would be covered under privilege. So Nancy's organization for her staff does 40 hours of training, and when it comes to that training for domestic violence advocates across the country, it varies state by state. Some states have a certification process, other states sort of like within their state have a standard.
There are nationally recognized competencies.
I would say in the field there are recognized areas that all advocates need to understand, and then it varies by the state and how the state's laws are structured. But when it comes to custody evaluators, there is only actually one state that has standards, and that is the state of California, and that's because in their judiciary, they actually have a committee specifically dedicated to establishing curricula for custody evaluators.
So it seems that the current law doesn't make sense, because the current law says a person may be appointed as a child custody evaluator, if person has obtained education training that meet nationally recognized competencies and standards of practice.
I don't believe we have a current law that includes domestic violence training as a feature of the training. Child custody evaluators do have to participate in general training in order to be included on the list of child custody evaluators, but the area of domestic violence is not included.
Right. But we're on the topic of child custody.
Correct?
If I may, can I
the
look
point
back at the
here-
draft
The
of the?
point here is, look, you can qualify to be a child custody evaluator if you have certain licensures.
Correct.
Psychiatrists, psychologists, family and marriage therapists, and a clinical social worker.
Correct.
The problem is that getting one of these licenses could also mean you have zero experience in child custody.
Correct.
Zero experience.
Correct.
So that part of the law seems flawed. Second part of the law says that in addition to the above, you can be appointed to a you may be appointed to be a child custody provider if you have certain nationally recognized competencies and standards of practice.
I would suggest that there's the assumption that if you have met the requirements for those licensures, that you have a basic understanding of the issues pertaining to children and children's lives, which impact child custody. What's not included is any focus on domestic violence.
No, I would disagree with you.
Okay.
You could have these licenses, but have no experience, no exposure to child custody.
That would be tricky. I mean, if you're carrying a caseload of families or working with children, many families get divorced or don't even get married in the first
No,
place.
but these guys may not have any caseload having to deal with families.
I suppose.
A psychologist?
Yeah.
What if a psychologist may not have any dealings with a family? I mean,
Well, everybody's a member of a
one of the
family.
longest-serving psychologists here in the state of Hawaii does only insanity hearings.
Well, that person with whom they're working is a member of a family. So in their therapeutic intervention, they might do some work around that person's experience with trauma or mental health as impacted by their family system.
Maybe, that's a bit of a stretch, I would think.
Okay.
Can you please stay?
Anyway.
I want to intervene,
Go
Rep.
ahead.
Kobayashi. I think I'm hearing what you're saying. You just want to make sure we have a safety mechanism so that child evaluator is well equipped to deal with the various concerns. So if that's the case, and I thank you, Representative Kobayashi, for saying that, please stay up. I'm going to see if Judge Park can come on up, because he's done an excellent job working with us on several bills before the legislature. He's representing family court. The family court's going to have to oversee this anyways. So I wanted to see if Judge Park, if you can work with Nancy and Angie on crafting language. I'm with Rep. Kobayashi. I don't know if 5 hours, 25 hours of training, 40 hours of training, or 3 hours or no hours of training, what would be the best for that child evaluator. And so, Judge Park, could the three of you work together and see if we can come up with something that seems to be universally accepted? Because this is a woman's caucus bill, and we need to support it. The next committee is judiciary. It's the last committee. I got a feeling this is going to be heard in judiciary. I got a feeling it's going to be passed, and I feel a lot more comfortable with you three experts working on the language for the child evaluator, and what would be reasonable and fair. Would that be okay to the three of you?
Yeah, we can go ahead. Thank you.
And if I actually,
Chair,
if I may add.
Angelina?
So actually, the judiciary has already convened a working group specifically around custody evaluators, and it's pardon me, there are a lot of hearings today, so I don't remember the exact statute, but we already have a statute that actually requires the judiciary to convene this working group. And part of what that working group is intended to do is to establish the ethical standards. It is, all sorts of criteria for our custody evaluators that I think would also help address Representative Kobayashi's concern about, hey, are we getting the right people doing this thing? And I've already spoken with the judiciary because I was asked to join that working group at the same time that we were introducing this legislation. And, my question to them was, do we need to stop this legislation? And they support this legislation and making sure that these training hours are already included in statute. So, of course, we're happy to work on anything else you may need, but know that the judiciary, it's all in that plan for custody evaluators.
Great. I guess the word is fortuitous. I'm glad that Judge Park is here because, again, with all of you working together, I'm sure you're going to have the airtight language. And when it hits judiciary, Chair Tarnas will have an easy time with this bill. But again, I want to thank all three of you for your expertise. Thank you for working together. Make this bill better. We want to pass sound legislation. So thank all three of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
We have a question.
I have a quick
Representative
question.
Amato has a question.
Yeah.
Vice Chair.
So I'm curious, how are child custody evaluators compensated? They are compensated for the work they do, correct?
Hi, Andrew Park from the Judiciary. I'll stand in on the question. So, child custody evaluators are appointed by the court in a particular case, and they would be compensated shared cost with the parents and the families who are requesting or needing the evaluation. And I think on that point, what Ms. Creedman had indicated about her staff receiving a higher level of training. And then with regards to Ms. Mercado's information about the 25 hours required to establish a domestic violence advocate privilege and to be a domestic violence advocate, what this bill I think is intending to do is make sure that all child custody evaluators have a baseline knowledge of the dynamics of domestic violence. And not every case is going to involve domestic violence. And so in a case that does involve domestic violence, the court, in appointing the custody evaluator, might actually be able to say, hey, you know what, you met the minimums, that's why you're on our list, and you're a good custody evaluator, but this case might not be for you. We need, to select a different custody evaluator. Some of those might end up with, maybe higher costs because they might need to be going through, if the baseline is, maybe there's a balance, I think, right? to help families be able to afford these very important reports.
I understand. I guess my point being, it's not like, I don't think anyone gets involved as a child custody evaluator because they're looking to make a lot of money. I think they're generally doing it because they care about the children. And in that respect, I think right there you have a different baseline of individuals who are involved, and they have a different starting point. So training further just enhances their capacity to care. Whereas it's not just some random individual who's out there saying, oh, I'm going to do this because it pays $150 an hour or whatever it may be. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank you.
Vice Chair. Good comments, good points. Members, are there any other questions on House Bill 581? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. That would be House Bill 456. First up, Office of Youth Services.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Leanne Gillespie, Executive Director for the Office of Youth Services. We're going to stand on our written testimony supporting the intent and offering comments to this measure. I will be available for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Next up, Attorney General's Office.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato. I'm Melissa Coloni, Deputy Attorney General. The department offers comments today. We've identified a possible constitutional issue under Article 7, Section 4, which provides in part that no grant of public money shall be made except pursuant to standards provided by law. This bill doesn't include standards, so we do recommend those be inserted into the bill. And we've attached sample standards to our testimony that could be amended to fit the legislator's intent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Hawaii Youth Services Network.
Aloha Chair, members of the committee. I'm Judith Clark, Executive Director of Hawai'i Youth Services Network. We are in support of this bill, increasing funding for positive youth development programs that are culturally relevant and evidence-informed will increase the likelihood that our youth will make successful transitions to adulthood. Evidence shows that investment in health, education, human services, and recreation programs for adolescents decreases risky behaviors such as substance abuse and juvenile crime. They increase educational achievement and civic engagement. They reduce the likelihood of involvement in juvenile and adult justice systems and future reliance on public assistance. Funding to support vulnerable youth at this critical time in their development can prevent a lifetime of future costs to society. We do applaud the plan to award multi-year or renewable grants for up to 5 years, because this provides stable funding that allows recipients to plan for and measure longer-term outcomes and provides program stability. We would note, however, that the Office of Youth Services normally provides contracts rather than grants to nonprofit organizations, and establishing a new grant-based system for funding will require time and resources for the Office of Youth Services. We won't address the legal issues that other testifiers have raised. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, next up, I've got Kalihi Community Center.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Martin Han. I'm the founder and executive director for the Kalihi Community Center. First off, thank you for having us today. Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair and Committee. The Kalihi Community Center is in strong support of HB 456. I am honored to appear before you today to provide testimony in support of the measure that will greatly benefit the Kalihi Community Center and the families we serve. The Kalihi Community Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization established in January 2014 with a mission to unite leaders and individuals to support and inspire families in need. Our programs are designed to serve low-income families, at-risk youth, and members of the different island-based communities. We offer a range of free programs, including athletic programs, learning center, yoga, hula, and dance classes. To date, we have served over 700 families and have positively impacted thousands more through our efforts. The diversity of our membership, which include Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders, speak to our commitment to serving the Kalihi community. At-risk youth, particularly those residing in public housing or low-income neighborhoods, are at the heart of our mission. Our programs aim to provide a support system and safe haven, helping to prevent negative outcomes and promoting positive change. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted our ability to provide service and meet the increasing demand for our programs. The funding provided by this measure will greatly assist us in continuing our mission and serving the community. In conclusion, I would like to express my strong support for this measure and thank you for the opportunity to testify. The Kalihi Community Center and the families we serve greatly appreciate your support. Thank you, guys. I'm here
Thank
for
you,
any
Martin.
questions.
Okay. Thank you, Martin. We'll probably call you back if we have questions.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 456, present or on Zoom? Okay, if not, members, questions? Questions? I have a question for Martin Hahn. Kalihi Community Center. So how many keiki do you guys serve?
Well, we have around 300 members to date. This is actually a member list that I didn't put it with, it's sort of proprietary, but if you can.
No need to show. We just want to know the numbers.
Yeah, we pretty much, to date right now in some of our classes, so we have 4 different classes: hula, boxing, dance classes. Each class can range up to maybe 10 to 50, right? Depending on, their availability. In regards to other programs, yeah, again, we have around 300 members.
Now, I actually saw your program before. I was very impressed. And I know that a couple news media outlets did a story. And this was in COVID and even coming out of COVID. A lot of the donors just fell off, and you guys are still barely running, but you don't charge these kids. A lot of the kids are from, unfortunately, low-income families, many in public housing, that wouldn't have anywhere else to go had it not been for your center. How were you able to continue without charging the kids or the families any fee?
Well, this is really a passion project, yeah. And the reason why is majority of these individuals that are there, they don't really have a support system. And, we had real good individuals that donated in the past, and we have asked for state assistance. We've been awarded grants in the past, and also grants for a GIA, a CIP, and an operational expense moving for 2022, 2023. But moving forward, based on what happened to COVID, we had to shift, right? We had to shift our programs and how we engage the community. What we're focusing on specifically is a leadership program for this next session, digital awareness, and cultural assistance. Kalihi specifically in that area has new migrants that have a hard time acclimating within this community. And if they go into a negative route, it's consistently affecting their family and their outcome.
So if I can intervene.
Go ahead.
So many of the youth that you provide services for without any fee, these are youth that might be from disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system.
That is
People
correct.
cover.
That is correct.
Okay. And
We
some
have
may
mayor
not-
rights, we have KPT.
Kalihi Valley Homes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, that's predominantly the focus, right? But it's not just that neighborhood. A lot of families in Hawaii are having problems, right? And having that kind of support system, especially mentorship and digital awareness. Because remember, we were in a generation that when you go to school, it ends there. Now kids are dealing with bullying that does not stop. And if you see the rise of suicide, it coincides with the social media, right? And you need to be able to teach adults how to handle that, to help their children, and how seniors to be able to handle that as well, right?
Thank you very much, Martin. Any other questions, members? Thank you, Mr.
Hey, thanks,
Hahn.
guys.
Appreciate it. Okay, members, if there's no further questions on House Bill 456, we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. It's going to be House Bill 1365. First up, Department of Human Services. DHS provided testimony with comments. Next up, we've got the Governor's Office. Oh, yes, Tim.
Yes, Tim
Good to
Hitchens.
see ya.
Sure, thank you. Good to see you too. Assistant Administrator, Social Services Division. We just stand in on our testimony and support, as you mentioned, with comments.
Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Governor's Office. Hi.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of committee, Office of Wellness and Resilience, representing the Governor's Office. We stand in support with comments.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Tia Roberts Hartsock. Sorry.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next up, Early Childhood Action Strategy. Provided testimony and support, Epic Ohana. Epic Ohana. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Laurie Tochiki. I'm Executive Director of Epic Ohana, which is the backbone organization of a network called Nakama Ahaloa. Also with me is Venus Rossetti Medeiros, who's the CEO of Halekipa, and who's also been a leader in our network. I want to just take a moment to clarify kind of the evolution of this Malama Ohana proposal that's a part of this bill, and just share that Malama Ohana comes from our network, and it comes from the lessons that we've learned over the last 5 years of the importance and the value of collaboration. And actually, Representative Mizuno, as I watch you, you are also modeling that collaboration this morning when you bring people together, and we've seen how valuable that is. And Nakama Haloa is also put at center the voices of lived experience, the foster youth, the parents, the grandparents, the resource caregivers, and that's what we want to bring forth in Malama Ohana. This was proposed last year. It was part of a bill that passed, that was vetoed by the governor, and 1635 has the remains of Ariel's law, which was where this was. Over the interim, we spoke with many colleagues, and we did propose another version of the bill, House Bill 330, which does place Malama Ohana with the Office of Wellness and Resilience, because we're very much aligned in purpose and goals, and also does address and take out an exemption to an ethics rule. So 330 does do that as well, which was a part of our response to feedback from our colleagues. And we're available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, next up, Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. Comments. Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Angie? In support. Thank you very much. Next up, Catholic Charities Hawaii. Catholic Charities provided testimony in support. I've got 4 individuals from Epic Ohana, 2 providing comments, 2 providing support. I've got the Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform, testimony in support. I've got 7 individuals, all providing testimony in support, with 2 providing comments. So at this time, if there's anyone here present or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 1365, please come on up and state your name. Yes, hi.
Aloha Chair,
Aloha.
Vice Chair, and committee members. Mahalo for the time to testify. I am Venus Rossetti Medeiros. I'm the CEO of Hale Kipa, and I stand in support of this bill. This is going to be such a unique opportunity to elevate the voices of our community members, our stakeholders, our youth who have been involved in the child welfare system. And I also want to emphasize that this is going to be a great historical time in our state to bring the department together with these stakeholders to redesign a child welfare system that is going to be a better, stronger system to support our keiki and our families. We've seen a lot of negative media coverage, pointing fingers at the department, but community also has kuleana. We have responsibility to care for our children. And so it's a joint partnership that really can be created in how we can, once again, support and not keep blaming fingers, and our children are the ones who are suffering. So we support this, and I'm here to answer any questions on why Hale Kipa is supporting this, and mahalo for this time.
Thanks. And Venus, I don't,
Yes.
maybe it's just me, but I'm missing your testimony on behalf of Hale Kipa. Jane, do you know if we have?
It was late. I'm so
Late?
sorry.
No problem. Make sure Jane or Christine gets a copy of your testimony, because
Okay.
I want to put it as part of the record. What we do is we copy it, and if anyone goes online and clicks this bill, they can see the testimony. Want to make sure Hale Kipa is represented in there.
Mahalo nui.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for
have a
your
great day.
testimony. Okay, anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 1365? If not, members, questions? Let's see. Epic Ohana. Thank you very much for being here. Looks to be that this is a vehicle, and I did get your recommended amendments. We're going to put the Malama Ohana Working Group in the Office of Wellness and Resilience. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Department of Human Services is on board with that, and I've seen a few other testifiers say the same thing. So it's a pretty
Correct.
easy fix. So we'll that will be the recommended amendments that we'll adopt.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, if there's no other questions on 1365, Rep. Kobayashi?
I guess DHS.
Tim?
This is supposed to be a working group, and you're going to develop some recommendations regarding child welfare system.
Yes.
But then it also talks about blank dollars shall be expended for development and maintenance of necessary information technology. In addition, blank dollars should be expended to increase compensation. In addition, blank dollars shall be expended to contract with third party for enhanced permanency support services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure what this bill is trying to do.
Well, this
On
bill's-
one hand, you're supposed to develop recommendations to improve the child welfare system.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you could be expending, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars for improving the current system.
Yes, we're looking forward to improving the whole system, and we're really fortunate to have a group like Malama Ohana and others in the community supporting us, as have testified today. Last year with the House Bill 2424, as was mentioned in other testimony, this was a part of that. And so when we looked at the bill this year and saw these spaces, we were seeking some of the funding there. In the the governor's budget, there's some money already allocated towards this, but not the full amount. So we just continued with the request here.
I see. But the problem here is that it's sort of like ready, shoot, aim. Your report is not supposed to be due until 2025, but then you're going to be expending a whole bunch of money prior to that.
Right, we're requesting some other money to support this group and other money just for other enhancements that we deem necessary.
But before you get any report?
Yes, it's related to other areas where we know we need funding.
I see.
But I understand your question. I might be able to come back with a better answer after consulting.
Okay.
We don't want those financial asks to take away from the Malama Ohana work group, though. We just recognize in enhancing the whole system, these were other areas where we saw a need for funding already.
Do you have these fundings in the governor's budget?
We
Or
have.
did you request these prior?
We requested last year, and some were approved in the governor's budget.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
not all. Yep.
Thank you.
I had a follow-up question, if I may. So, Tim, I've noticed the friendly amendments are to put Malama Ohana Working Group in the Office of Wellness and Resilience. That's in the governor's office, so if there's funding needs, I'm sure they can just let Governor Green know what they are, being that it's under his office anyways. And probably that's where the rubber meets the road, where if Governor Green says, yes, let's appropriate the full amount, or no, we're just going to put in half, or no, nothing at all, I changed my mind. I think that's where it really happens, because again, it's under the office of the governor anyways. And I think it's a good amendment to put them under the governor's office. So I think it's near and dear to his heart. And so that way, if he really wants us to move on, he will put what he feels is appropriate funding in this bill, should it pass.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you
Well,
very
thanks,
much.
Tim, appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, usually members need to be called up. So I have a question. Chair has a question. Could you please come up and answer my concerns on this bill? Sorry, it's protocol.
Sorry. Aloha. Tia
Aloha.
Hartsock, Executive Director for Office of Wellness and Resilience in the Governor's Office.
Oh,
Did you ask
and
me?
you are so right on cue. So it would make sense that this be placed in your office, and you could, you have direct dialogue with Governor Green. You can share with him, you know, Gov, we're gonna probably need X amount of money, because at the end of the day, I don't know what that final amount is. I think the dialogue between you being under his office in the first place, it's gonna be a lot easier. We're gonna know directly if he's gonna want this bill to pass or not, and how much appropriation he wants to put in. But you're gonna be on the ground, in the trenches, letting Governor know, yes, we can do this. With this amount of money, we can provide wide range of service, we can really improve the system.
I think one of the requests specifically for the appropriation request for this bill speaks to, and can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it speaks to, so my office got established through Act 291 last year. I have a charge of my own, and I'm on my third week of starting the office and being employed. So I think part of the request is to provide assistance to facilitate this working group above and beyond. I mean, it fits in our kind of overall charge, but above and beyond what we are scoped to do. Again, it totally fit and aligns. However, to run a working group under Sunshine Law takes some support. So in order to run that efficiently and effectively and develop a recommendations report, having a facilitator to do that would be extremely helpful.
Well, you got me. The key again, though, is because you work in the governor's office. If this is what he wants, if it's a priority, as long as he can let us know as this bill continues, my guess is we'll work well together and we'll help. It's always better when the legislative branch works with the executive branch to pass good bills. And again, Governor Green's a good friend of mine. He's a straight shooter. He cares about the people, especially the needy and keiki. So if he wants this and he's willing to put up the appropriation amount, I think our committees are okay, and I'll move this bill. So yeah, thank you for
Chair.
that information. Please let Governor know we said hi.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And congratulations on being here for 3 weeks at the new job.
Thank you very much.
We'll continue to work with you. Thank you. Okay, members, are there any other questions on House Bill 1365? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go on to the next bill on the agenda. House Bill 870, first up, Department of Human Services.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Leah Diaz. I am the Ho'opono Administrator, and I'm here today representing the Department of Human Services, and we stand on our testimony in support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I've got Disability and Communication Access Board. Provided testimony in support. National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair.
Good morning,
members. Thank you. And this is an initiative of the Deaf and Blind Task Force. I particularly want to give a shout out to my representative, Kobayashi, over here for helping out on this. This is not the first rodeo for this bill, but I do think we're coming closer to a meeting of the minds between the blind community and the Department of Human Services on this, given their support and our support. This bill really envisions a planning process leading toward development of more comprehensive services to blind and visually impaired people on our neighbor islands. We have a great service program at Ho'opono that Leah is in charge of, and we just want to see her do more on the neighbor islands to help those people. So mahalo for your consideration of this bill. It would be a small planning process for about a year with a more full-blown program to come.
Thank you very much. National Organization of Parents of Blind Children provided testimony in support. I've got 9 individuals all providing testimony in support, 2 of whom are on Zoom. So anyone here present or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 870, please come on up and state your name.
Chair. Donald Sakamoto, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Sakamoto.
Yes, Donald Sakamoto for the record, National Federation of Blind of Hawaii, Morning Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. As a New Visions graduate of Ho'opono for the blind in 2011, I witnessed people from the neighbor islands come to Ho'opono and they get their training and they go back. Some of them went back and they started to train other people who were waiting to come to Ho'opono. But that's the key thing is the blind, teaching the blind, and this is what this bill is to attend. So I fully support this bill, and I thank Ho'opono for having the opportunity to train me and others to be self-efficient and independent and be able to go on in the workforce, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and I look forward to hearing more about the bill being passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 870? If not, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. That would be House Bill 938. 938, first up, Department of Taxation.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Charlene Tagami, and I'm here on behalf of the Department of Taxation. The department stands on its written testimony. I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Department of Human Services.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and members. My name is Scott Morishige. I'm the administrator for the Benefits, Employment, and Support Services Division of DHS on behalf of our Director, Kathy Betts. The department appreciates the intent of this bill, offers comments, and asks for clarification of a few points outlined in our testimony. We also ask that any appropriation not replace or adversely impact any priorities in the executive budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. Next up, Executive Office on Early Learning.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Jordana Ferrer on behalf of the Executive Office on Early Learning. We'll stand on our written testimony supporting the intention of this bill, and we offered some comments for suggested language amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, and we've already, Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Tax Foundation. We call it Department of Taxation. Now we've got Tax Foundation of Hawaii, which provided comments. They're on Zoom? Okay. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Chair Mizuno, members of the committee. Jade McMillan on behalf of Tamiyamachika and the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We will stand on a written comment submitted on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's all I have on a testifiers list. Are there any testifiers in the audience or on Zoom? Please come on up, and just give us your name and.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Trevor Abrazu. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. And we did submit testimony in support of the measure and in support of the intent of the measure. I do know there are a number of bills going through the process that touch on the same thing and maybe slight detail changes. So we are supporting other bills, but we just wanted to stand in support of this bill as well. So,
okay, hold on. Jane or Christine, do we have Chamber's testimony?
Okay, we're happy to provide it. Yeah, I think we submitted it late online.
Jane or Christine.
Yeah.
Again, I just want to make sure we have a record so when people look up the bill.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, anyone else that I may have missed in the audience or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 938? 938. Okay, seeing none. Members, questions? No questions? Okay, thank you, members. Going to move on to the next bill on the agenda, House Bill 740. First up, Department of Human Services.
Good morning again. Scott Morishige, Busy Administrator for DHS. The department appreciates the intent of this bill, offers comments, and includes estimated appropriations needed to implement this measure in our testimony. We also request that the effective date be pushed to later than December 31st, 2023. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Next up, Hawaii Appleseed Center.
Present on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Appleseed, you're on.
Aloha committee members, Gillis Poto, Director of Anti-Hunger Initiatives. Hawaii Appleseed stands on its testimony in support of this measure, and we'd just like to highlight that the results of our recent needs assessment on Hawaii SNAP very clearly show that despite the fact the program is called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, it is in fact, for many families, not a supplement, it's in their entire grocery budget. and that the reality is the federal eligibility thresholds and monthly allotments are inadequate for the realities of the cost of living in Hawaii. We recognize the high price tag on this bill, but we think that the economic multiplier SNAP offers to Hawaii's economy would be significant. And if we could provide any amount of additional benefits to these families, it would be greatly appreciated. So thank you for considering this bill.
Thank you very much. Next up, I've got food and policy. Provided testimony in support, Hawaii Hunger Action Network. Testimony in support, Hawaii Public Health Institute.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nate Hicks here with Hawaii Public Health Institute, Food Access Policy and Advocacy Coordinator. And I just want to highlight a few things. We stand on a written testimony, but also a lot of families are just above the 200% federal poverty line threshold. You know, a family of four making $64,000 receives no SNAP benefits despite being in significant need. This huge drop off in cliff, they're losing $10,000 or more per year just by adding or by earning just a few extra dollars, $100, $1,000. And so they're earning more but have less to spend, and that's a huge negative impact not only on the family but the economy as a whole. And I also want to point to one correction I think that needs to be made at the end that decreases the gradual decline per person rather than per household. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nate. Next up, Hawaii Pacific Health. Provided testimony in support, Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Thank you, Chair.
Lauren.
Hi.
Hi. First time I think this year.
I know, right? Good to see you.
Good to see you again. Hi.
Lauren Zorbel on behalf of Hawaii Food Industry Association. We're in strong support of this bill. The SNAP program really benefits our local economy. It helps low-income residents. It helps local growers. It helps local food manufacturers. It helps local grocers. And it's just a really great program that is really specifically tailored to help with food security. And that's a big problem that we have here in this state. We know for a fact that a lot of low-income individuals cannot afford to buy a 2-week supply of groceries, which is what we are recommending people do for their food security and resiliency needs. So we strongly support this measure. I do realize, wow, the price tag is shocking on it. And I was actually, if it would be possible to get more information on how, is that for the whole program or is that additional?
Because it's not federal funds now, but Scott Morishige can
okay.
answer your questions.
Yeah, so I mean, it is a really,
Sorry,
it's a
Scott.
really aggressive price tag. But, you know, like other testifiers said, anything that can be done to sort of help with this benefits cliff that exists would be greatly appreciated. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you very much. Members, I've got 6 individuals all providing testimony in support. So if anyone's here for this bill or on Zoom wishing to testify, please come on up. Yes, please. AARP?
Yeah, we submitted our testimony, might have been late, but AARP was.
Oh, I apologize. I do have you. It's my fault. I didn't call you. In support?
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're in strong support, and we echo all the comments, the issues that were raised by the other testifiers, so we support it and in strong support of this measure.
Thank you so much. And this would be on me. Your name's here. I just missed you. Sorry about that. Anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 740 or on Zoom? Seeing none, members, questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Representative Vice Chair Amato.
Yes, I have a question for DHS, please. Do you have an estimate of approximately how many SNAP beneficiaries will be affected by this?
Oh, thank you, Vice Chair. In our testimony, we note that our current monthly average number of individuals receiving SNAP statewide is 158,450, and that's how we base in part the estimated appropriation needed to implement.
Okay, but would all of those individuals fall under the 200% of the federal poverty level?
We would probably need to go back and look at the data to provide more accurate estimates for the committee, and that's something we certainly can do.
That would be helpful because, I mean, it seemed the price tag is exorbitant. I mean, it's almost $500 million. But I don't think that it's going to impact every single SNAP recipient, given the way the thresholds are.
No, thank you. We'll follow up on that and get back to you.
Thank
Scott,
you.
Can you?
Oh, I'm sorry. My
Wait.
Assistant Administrator, Scott Nakasone, is here. He might have more additional.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So Scott Nakasone, from BESD. Basically, the 200% FPL is the current standard right now that is used for SNAP eligibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could both Scotts get the information requested to Vice Chair Amato?
Yeah, so
Within
what
a
I'm
week?
saying, yeah, so what
Is
I'm
that-
saying is that number there is
It would
the current,
affect
is the,
absolutely everyone.
exactly.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Further questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, any further questions on House Bill 740? Okay, seeing none, thank you, members. Going to move on to the next bill. Next bill is 782. First up, Department of Human Services.
Good morning again. Scott
morning,
Morishige,
Scott.
BESD Administrator on behalf of DHS. The department again appreciates the intent of this bill, provides comments and requests clarification on a few items. We also ask that any appropriation not reduce or replace priorities in the executive budget. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, next, AARP.
Audrey Suga Nakagawa from AARP, and we stand in strong support of this measure. I think having the other community partners and healthcare providers really help expand the outreach efforts of distributing and getting people who are eligible for SNAP to be submitting their applications. And if the committee could just indulge me, I just want to illustrate a story. Back in March 2020, when the state shut down and the pandemic hit us really hard, we had a major crisis especially among our kapuna who was in food insecure, and they could not access going grocery shopping. Foods were, checked out of the stores. There was nothing for them to buy. And so at that time, there was a kapuna coalition that came together, a group of all of the aging partners, along with the food providers, in trying to address this crisis that was happening, especially on this island of Oahu. Within 10 months, 1 million meals got delivered to the kapuna. But during that time, what we found was that there were so many seniors who were eligible for SNAP and were not taking advantage of it for various reasons, whether it's not being aware of it. Some of it was social stigma. They knew this was the so-called food stamps, or language barriers, or not just being able to navigate the bureaucracy of applications. And so our food providers, our network providers, were coming in to help them with the application process. Lanakilio Pacific Meals on Wheels is one good example, who's been doing a really good job working with the Department of Human Services in trying to get the seniors who are eligible to sign up for SNAP. And this also can play very important roles with other providers. So again, having the community partners participate in this effort and helping our kapuna sign up for this very, very valuable service and benefit for them would really improve the overall food security for our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I've got two individuals providing testimony in support. So if anyone's present or on Zoom wishing to testify on House Bill 782, please come on up and state your name. Okay, seeing none, members, are there any questions? House Bill 782. No question? Yes, Representative Kobayashi.
For Department of Human Services, what needs to be done to increase the number of currently eligible people to get SNAP benefits?
Well, thank you, Rep. Kobayashi, for the question. So actually, one of the things the department has done is we've put our application for both SNAP and financial assistance online. So it provides another access point for people to apply. Anyone can provide assistance with completing the paper application or the online application. We also contract 8 different SNAP outreach providers throughout the state to provide that additional support.
I mean, what else? How many people who are currently eligible do not get SNAP benefits?
It's hard to determine, how many people that we're not reaching, but we make every effort through, again, the multiple means that I described. And we just had a meeting recently with our SNAP outreach providers to talk about how we can continue to better partner with them, both through outreach events, providing additional assistance for people applying, or doing eligibility renewals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members. Further questions on House Bill 782? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. 1188, Department of Human Services.
Good morning again, Chair, Vice Chair, members.
Scott.
Scott Morishige, BESD Administrator for DHS. Department appreciates the intent, offers comments. We just ask for a clarification if institution of higher education is limited to colleges and universities, or does it apply to technical or vocational schools? We'll stand in the remainder of our testimony, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, next up, we've got Appleseed Center.
Aloha committee members, Daniela Spoto, Director of Anti-Hunger Initiatives. Hawaii Appleseed stands on its testimony in support of this measure. We'd also like to highlight that college students do experience food insecurity at higher rates than many other age groups and populations, but federal rules do explicitly prohibit college students that would otherwise be eligible from participating unless they work at least 20 hours a week or have a dependent. And we think that this legislation will really help the success of Hawaii residents as they're trying to obtain a higher education. So we appreciate your deliberation of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got 4 individuals providing testimony, all in support. So if those individuals are here and would like to testify, again, in person or on Zoom, please come on up and state your name. Okay. Members, is there anyone that I missed that would like to testify on this measure? If not, members, questions on 1188? No questions? Okay, thank you, members. We're going to move on to the next bill, which would be 1487. First up, Department of Health Executive Office on Aging.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee.
Good
I
morning.
am Jeffrey Woodland, standing in for Caroline Karirao, the Director for our offices. We are strongly in support of this bill.
Okay.
Hawaii is a program with Senior Medicare Patrol. Our mission statement is empowering seniors to prevent Medicare fraud, prevent, detect, and report. But we have a disproportionate number of people that are calling our lines now in regards to other scams and fraud, and I think we can all understand the need for more assistance. We in our offices don't turn anybody away when they call. That's one of the best and the worst things about my job are all these calls that I get to take with the seniors that are calling us in. It's an amazing opportunity to help them. But we do have requirements that we need to meet with Senior Medicare Patrol. In the community, however, with our great outreach efforts that we do, we are really getting known for the scam busters, the fraud busters. We're getting known for that. So it's increasing exponentially on our side for other scams and fraud, romance schemes, you name it. It's just a huge gamut. And we really need more support so that we can secure ourselves. We really want to be able to be a group of people working towards all of these needs that our community has that are going to continue to grow. And if I'm here, if you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
Yeah, not a question, but I just want to thank you, Jeffrey. It was a great meeting we had a few weeks ago, and I just wanted to share with you, if you can give my best to the director and your awesome team. Thank you for caring for our kupuna.
I really appreciate that. I definitely let them know.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Guys.
We'll see you. Thank you. Okay, next up, Policy Advisory Board, PABIA, on Elderly Affairs. I'm sorry, PABIA. Provided testimony in support. We have an individual, we have a couple individuals, I'm sorry. So, AARP, I want to miss you.
Audrey Suga Nakagawa for AARP. I just want to point out that we have 279,000 Medicare beneficiaries in Hawaii. And as you know, as our population ages, that number is going to be increased. So SMP plays a very vital role because we know the scams and frauds are out there. And unfortunately, our kupuna are the most vulnerable at these things. Medicare reported a $7 billion of taxpayers' dollars to false claims every year. So having an organization like SMP who becomes our watchdog and helping and educate our consumers to protect themselves from these type of scams is very, very important. So we stand in strong support for SMP's program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got about 6 individuals, 5 in support, 1 with comments. So if there's any individual here or on Zoom wishing to testify on this measure, please come on up and state your name. On Zoom? Okay, thank you.
Aloha?
Aloha? Yeah, we're here. Good morning.
My name is Mei Fuji. I stand on my written testimony and would like to highlight a media experience that is making the public more aware of how to fight Medicare as well as other scams and fraud. As a dual member of both SMP and SHIP, while counseling Medicare beneficiaries at Kahala Mall, a woman walked up to our booth, addressed me directly, and said, "I've seen you on TV and wish to thank you for warning us about financial fraud." A team of us from the EOE filmed a public service skit to make Kupuna more aware of how scammers use the phone, the internet, or other means to prey on vulnerable Kupuna. As the narrator's voice, I warn viewers with these lines. It's not your fault. Don't be ashamed. Please report suspected scams. The woman said she had to constantly remind her elderly mother not to respond to unfamiliar callers, and viewing our TV skit was helpful to bring this message to the homebound Kupuna. They're still running this segment during commercial breaks. After 2 years, and my son, who is a mainland resident, reports that he's received calls from his friends from anywhere saying, "Hey, we saw your mom on Facebook." So these comments from even total strangers that we meet here on the street and restaurants who recognize and appreciate it and thank us as fraud watchers is like having that special one moment in time. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge our dedicated and innovative change makers, our director, and our volunteer coordinator that you just met, who need additional program specialists and more volunteers to help SMP reach and help our fast-growing Kupuna population through outreach, presentations, individual counseling, and media skits like this one to fight fraud and scams. Mahalo, and I apologize that something went wrong with my Zoom photo, and it's my rainbow, and my sincere apology about that, and I couldn't repair it in time.
No, Mei Fuji, we think it looks quite heavenly. And thank you for sharing with us the power of media.
It's nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, thank you, May. Thank you for helping to protect our kupuna. It's a consumer protection issue, so thank you so much. Members, are there any questions? I believe May was our last testifier. Just let me double check. Anyone in the audience or anyone on Zoom wishing to testify on the last bill on the agenda, House Bill 1487? Okay, if not, members, questions. Representative Kobayashi.
For SMP, Jeffrey,
Yes.
are we maxing out on federal support for this program?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Easy question, huh, Jeffrey? Okay, members, any further questions? Seeing none, members, let's come back and reconvene. I'm gonna recess us, and why don't we do decision making at 11:30? Make sure we got all our members here. So I wanted to thank everyone in the audience, the testifiers. Appreciate your fine testimony and helping us try to pass sound legislation. With that said, we're going to come back. I'm going to recess. We're going to reconvene at 11:30 a.m. in this room for decision making on the 9 o'clock calendar hearing of bills. Recess. Aloha, good morning. We're back on the Thursday, February 9th hearing agenda. No, this is for decision-making for the joint committees on Human Services and Health. HB 1357. This is not going to be easy to move out, very difficult bill. I'm going to pass it though with an HD1 tech amendments, the effective date to July 30th, 3,000, blank appropriation amount, take out the word back pay with the word enhanced pay. In the committee report, I need to be very honest to the Finance Committee as well as the proponents of this bill. By seeking enhanced payments for Medicaid clients, this may jeopardize permanent pay increase of the $30 million annually to community-based caregivers. I'd also like to note in the committee report, we want to follow up with Department of Human Services MedQuest Administrator if these enhanced payments have already been made to caregivers and if the additional enhanced payments will violate any state or federal Medicaid law. And those are it. Any comments, questions? I know there's probably some concerns, but trying my best. Okay, with that, for my Vice Chair for Human Services, can you please take the vote?
Absolutely, Chair. Thank you. So, voting on HB 1357, Chair recommends voting with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Representative Belatti.
Aye.
Representative Iligan.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Takanuchi.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto.
Aye.
Representative Garcia.
Aye.
Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Next bill on the agenda
Wait,
is...
I have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Health Committee, same recommendation, HD1. Vice Chair for the vote.
Health Committee voting on HB 1357. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato?
Aye.
Representative Iligan? Aye. Representative Kobayashi?
Aye.
Representative Mizuno?
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto?
Aye.
Representative Garcia?
Aye.
Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And Madam Chair Belatti, I think that concludes our joint hearing. Thank you. We're going into now the 9 a.m. agenda. First bill on the agenda is House Bill 618. Guys, this is a very good bill, written really well. This is going to be the first bill I'm passing out as is. I want to place in the committee report the judiciary supported this bill and let Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs know this bill is good, very clean. Any questions, thoughts? If not, Madam Vice Chair, for the vote.
Voting on HB 618, Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Noting the presence of all members, are there any votes with reservations? Any noes? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Next bill on the agenda, 841. Recommendation is passed with an HD1 tech amendments. However, clean date. And in the committee report, I want to put Department of Human Services as well as Judiciary's support. This is a good bill. Needs some tech amendments, but it's a good bill. I want to keep a clean date. Any questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 841, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Noting the presence of all members, any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Next bill on the agenda, 415. Recommendation passed with an HD1 tech amendments. Bill already contains a blank appropriation and effective date, so those are my recommended amendments. Questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
I'm sorry, was this to pass with amendments?
Pass with amendments,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Thanks.
Voting on HB 415 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next bill on the agenda is 225. Recommendation passed with a House Draft 1, no tech amendments, but we want a defective date to June 30th, 3000. Please note, we're not going to blank out the appropriation because it's not a new appropriation, it's existing. But nonetheless, we've got the defective date to protect us on this one. And those are it. Any questions or concerns? Okay, if not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 225 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Noting the presence of all members, Anyone with reservations? Any noes? Seeing none, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Next bill on the agenda is House Bill 448, recommendations passed with an HD1. Adopt the amendments by the Department of Education. In addition, we need technical amendments for this bill. And in the committee report, I want, in the committee report, cite the recommended amendments by the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So I don't want to put them in a bill, but I want to put them in a committee report. Also want to note in a committee report that DHS, Judiciary, and the Coalition Against Domestic Violence will work together to finalize the language on this bill, should the next committee take this up in a hearing. Any questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, passed with an HD1, I'm sorry.
Voting on HB 448, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair are both voting aye. All members present, any noes? Seeing none. Any reservations?
Reservations.
Duly noted. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, members. House Bill 449. I want to note that Senate Bill 407, which is very similar to this bill, has already passed the Senate Health and Human Services Committee. I'd like to defer this bill. Let's wait for the Senate vehicle to come over. So recommendation defer House Bill 449. Questions, concerns, comments? If not, we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. It's House Bill 446. Members, there's a very similar bill right after this. That's House Bill 581. 581 is the Women's Legislative Caucus Bill. I think it's written a lot better than 446, so I'm going to defer House Bill 446. Questions, concerns? Not, thank you. We're going to go to the House Bill 581. Recommendation is passed with a House Draft 1. Effective date to July 30th, 3000. Blank out any appropriation. Adopt the amendments made by the DOE Special Education teacher, Troy Fujii. I don't know if I mentioned technical amendments, but yes, this needs technical amendments. And finally, in the committee report, we've got confirmation that Judiciary, Domestic Violence Action Center, and the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence will work together to try to ensure sound language should Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs hear this bill next. Any questions or concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Voting on HB 581, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. All members present. Does anyone have any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Next bill on the agenda, 456. Recommendation passed with a House Draft 1, defective date June 30th, 3000, blank any appropriation amount. Adopt the recommended amendments by the Attorney General's Office. I'd also like to cite in the committee report, the Office of Youth Services, they had indicated that maybe House Bill 438 should be the vehicle. Nonetheless, I think we still want to move this bill on. And finally, in the committee report, I want to provide as an example of a very good sound model, that of the description of Kalihi Community Center, just an example of them focusing on the disproportionately represented youth in our judicial system or justice system. I think they do a great job at helping at-risk youth kids, and I just wanted to flag that for the next committee to look at. Questions, concerns? Yes, Representative Kobayashi?
Are you going to keep these as a grant program?
We're going to adopt the amendments by the Attorney Generals to allow OIS to provide grants, should they go forward and do that. Because they did give us language to amend.
I think it would be easier if we not make this a grant program and just do contracts, which OIS already does.
I'll put that in the committee report. Let's revisit this. Should this be heard by the next committee on whether OIS would rather just do contracts than put in grants? Because again, that was a thought by the Attorney Generals, and that's why they gave us language to amend the bill if we're going to take it that route.
Yeah.
But yes, let's put it in committee report. If OIS thinks that it's more efficient to do it via contracts, then let's make sure the next committee that takes this up will listen to them via the committee report and make those changes. Any further questions or concerns? Okay, if not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
So that's with amendments.
With amendments,
Okay.
yes.
Voting on HB 456, Chair recommends passing with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. All members present, does anyone vote no?
No.
Got it. Any with reservation? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, members. I believe we're on 1365. Recommendation is to pass with an HD1 tech amendments. I'd like to adopt the amendments offered by the Office of the Governor and EPIC Ohana. They want to place the Malama Ohana Working Group within the Office of the Governor under the Office of Wellness and Resilience. We're going to defect the date July 30th, 3000. We are going to blank out the appropriation amount. And in the committee report, again, under tech amendments, we're going to clarify who the chair or chairs should be. Any questions or concerns? Okay, if not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 1365, Chair recommends passing with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? All members voting aye. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Next bill on the agenda is House Bill 870, recommendation passed with an HD1 tech amendments. We need to confirm that the end date for the pilot program is June 30th, 2027. Notwithstanding that, I'd like to place a defective date of July 30th, 3000. Again, let's make sure the appropriation section is blank. However, I wanted to put in the committee report any of the concerns cited by the Department of Human Services. Just want to give finance a heads up of what's coming their way. Questions, concerns? Okay, if not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 870, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair are both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? All members voting aye. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 938, recommendation passed with an HD1 tech amendments. Defective date, July 30th, 3000. It's already blank. I did mention tech amendments. Let's see. Wait, I'm sorry. Members, I'm going to have to defer House Bill 338. There's just too many concerns. Department of Taxation. 938. Yeah, I apologize. 938. Members, I've got to defer this bill. There's just too many problems. And if the author would like to meet with me, I will talk to the author. There's too much work that can't be done, and so I'm going to defer 938.
Okay.
Questions, concerns? Okay, thanks, guys. Next measure, House Bill 740, recommendation passed with an HD1 tech amendments. Adopt amendments requested by the Appleseed Center. Defective date to July 30th, 3000. There's already a blank amount. And in the committee report, I want to cite the cost estimates or projections by the Department of Human Services. Okay, members, any questions or concerns or comments? Not. Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 740, recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members with reservations? Any members voting no?
No vote.
Representative Garcia votes no. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any other noes? Any other reservations? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next bill is House Bill 782, recommendation passed with an HD1, no tech amendments, defective date July 30th, 3000, and we want to take DHS's recommended amendments, strike out prospective applicants to include all applicants. Any questions, concerns, thoughts? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 782, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair are both voting aye. Are there any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next measure is 1188, recommendation passed with HD1 tech amendments, defective date to July 30th, 3000. I believe it's already blank. The amount is already blank, which is fine. Committee report, I need to put in what the Department of Human Services provided us, projected cost. Again, I just want to give a heads up to finance. This is going to their committee, so I don't want to catch them off guard. Committee report, DHS projected costs. Questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on HB 1188, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair are both voting aye. Are there any members voting no?
No vote.
No vote for Representative Garcia. Any other noes? Any reservations? All others voting aye. Chair, your measure is adopted.
I believe we're at the last bill on the agenda, 1487, recommendation passed with an HD1. No tech amendments. The effective date July 30th, 3000. Make sure it's blank appropriation. Questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Final vote for February 9th, 2023. Chair's HB 1487, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair are both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any reservations? All members voting aye. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you, members. Now adjourned.